Have you ever had the feeling that there's a kind of secret door in the financial market? A silent entrance that separates those who truly build wealth from those who spend their entire lives just circling the edges? And more than that, have you ever felt that some people seem to be invited to opportunities you didn't even know existed? Private deals, restricted conversations, off-market investments that never appear on Google? Stick with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might surprise you. There's an invisible test happening all the time, a filter that nobody tells you about, but that determines exactly who enters this world and who stays outside forever. This filter doesn't appear in personal finance books, isn't explained in investment courses, and is certainly not mentioned by influencers who talk about quick riches. It's something much deeper, almost psychological, and it makes perfect sense for anyone who has already crossed the 250K barrier, the famous Shark Gate. Before anyone is considered eligible to participate in opportunities that truly build wealth, there's a silent test that evaluates behavior, mindset, consistency, and even how you react when no one is watching. Have you been through this? Maybe so, but only now will you notice the signs. What's most fascinating is that the sharks, the big investors, those who naturally circulate at this upper level of the market, recognize this test instantly. For them, it's simple. There's an invisible pattern that differentiates those who are ready to grow from those who still operate with a beginner's mentality. And that's why so many people get stuck with expensive products, sky-high fees, premium investments sold to beginners, while those already part of this restricted circle see a completely different layer of the market, a layer that only reveals itself when you demonstrate certain behaviors. Most never realize it, but this filter decides who gets in and who stays out forever. Imagine that while you go about your daily financial life, choosing a car, accepting financing, making an investment just because everyone else is doing it, the market is silently noting your every decision. It observes how you think, how you react to risk, how you handle discipline, how you manage your time and expectations. Does that sound exaggerated? It's not. The test that the sharks use has no form, no interview, no official score. It happens invisibly. It happens before you even know you're being evaluated. And perhaps for the first time, you'll understand how this test truly works. Not to scare you, but to open your eyes to something few realize. The financial market has an emotional and behavioral filter that's far more important than your current account balance. And it starts working long before you reach 250K. So take a deep breath, because from now on, we're going to enter the most revealing part of this journey. And what comes next may completely change the way you see your own path towards the Shark Gate. And as you begin to see this filter more clearly, perhaps some pieces of your own financial history will begin to fall into place. Perhaps decisions you made in the past, without realizing it, were already small signals sent to the market, revealing whether you were ready to level up or not. And that's precisely why this topic resonates so much with us, because it forces us to look inward and realize that the shark door doesn't open only with money. It opens with transformation. If this topic makes sense to you, if something here has touched you or reminded you of a situation you've experienced, leave your experience in the comments. Knowing how you perceive this silent test not only helps me understand where you are on your journey, but also strengthens an entire community of people who are seeking to evolve financially with awareness and intelligence. And I really need to tell you this sincerely. Your participation here makes all the difference. When you like the video, when you comment, when you subscribe to the channel, you're not just supporting the content. You're helping this message reach more people who, like you, are trying to understand how the market works behind the scenes, how to move beyond beginner products, and how to finally reach that 250K world where everything changes. It's a simple gesture, but it has a gigantic impact on the channel's growth and the continuity of this series we're building together. So, if you believe this type of content can help someone who is starting out, or even someone who has been investing for a while but feels they haven't yet found the right direction, leave a like, comment on what resonated with you the most, and subscribe to walk with me through the next chapters. Because, believe me, what comes next deepens this journey even further. We're only opening the first door. And there's so much more happening behind the scenes of this silent test that decides who gets in and who stays out. And when we start looking at this filter more honestly, something very important happens. we realize it never had anything to do with bank balance. The shark's first filter is, in fact, a behavioral filter. It observes attitudes, not values, mindset, not assets. Small daily choices that, added together, reveal who is truly ready to cross that invisible door. Before you even reach 250K, the market is already evaluating how you position yourself in relation to your own decisions, how you react to unforeseen events, how you manage expectations, and, above all, how you deal with the hidden truth behind wealth building, the part that nobody applauds. Because, deep down, the sharks don't want to know how much you have today. They want to know who you are, while you still have nothing. It is at this most intimate, almost psychological level that the silent test begins to take place. When you insist on maintaining discipline before the money arrives, when you honor commitments that no one sees, when you maintain consistency even without an audience, you send clear signals to those behind the scenes. These are small but powerful signals. The ability to wait when everything inside you wants to accelerate, the way you talk about money when there is no advantage in seeming clever, the way you react to risk without drama or despair. Each detail reveals much more than you imagine. Most people interpret these attitudes as simple personality traits. But for those who navigate at higher levels, all of this forms a complete map of their journey. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because this automatic screening doesn't depend on you asking for approval. It happens naturally, as if the market were a living organism, always observing who is prepared to handle greater opportunities. When you demonstrate emotional stability instead of impulsiveness, when you maintain solid habits instead of erratic decisions, when you prefer progress to applause, the filter begins to push you to the upper floor. It's not luck, it's not charisma, it's not magical networking. It's behavior honed in silence, in moments of doubt, in phases where the impact of your choices seems small, but it never is. And when this internal change finally begins to consolidate, something inside you realizes that you are ceasing to think like a beginner and starting to act like someone who truly sees the market from above. It is at this point that your transformation ceases to be a promise and begins to be perceived by others, even if you say nothing. The door doesn't open suddenly. It approaches slowly as you prove, day after day, that you are ready to handle a level of responsibility that goes beyond numbers. And when this movement begins, it's impossible not to feel that something bigger is happening behind the scenes of your financial life, something that connects behavior, mindset, and revelations that previously seemed distant. Comment below. I'm on this journey too. And it is precisely when this internal change begins to happen that the silent test becomes even more evident. The most intriguing part is that the market doesn't warn you when it's evaluating you. It simply observes, records, and interprets each of your decisions as if it were putting together a puzzle about who you really are. And the curious thing is that all this happens behind the scenes, away from the spotlight, in that territory where the hidden truth of financial behavior is revealed almost inevitably. Sometimes you think you're just choosing a financed car, comparing installments, analyzing interest rates. But for those who understand the impact of decisions, this moment says much more about your mindset than about the vehicle itself. The way you approach this commitment shows whether you are guided by anxiety, by a need for validation, or by strategic clarity. The same applies to that investment you accept simply because everyone else is doing it. At first glance, it seems like a common decision, but at more advanced levels, where real transformation happens, this attitude sends a clear signal. Are you following the herd or building your own journey? And there's no middle ground in this interpretation. Those at the top can perceive these movements with precision because they've already experienced the same temptations, the same impulses to belong, the same shortcuts that promise quick returns but deliver frustration. It's as if the market is testing your ability to resist the noise and remain true to the convictions you claim to have. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because there's another important point. The anxiety for quick results. This is where many people get lost without realizing it. When you put money into an asset and compulsively check its performance, as if every fluctuation were a death sentence, it reveals that your mindset is still stuck in the short term, and the shark's filter is ruthless with this type of behavior. They know that those who can't wait can't grow. The inability to hold investments, to maintain consistency even when the market fluctuates, to respect time as an essential part of building wealth, all of this paints a clear picture of who is emotionally prepared to walk through the door and who is still trapped in the endless cycle of beginner premium products. And the most impressive thing is that this silent test never fails. It doesn't shout, it doesn't confront, it doesn't punish immediately. It just observes. And from these small behaviors, the market separates those who are ready to operate at another level from those who haven't yet realized that their daily decisions carry profound revelations about their financial future. It's hard to admit, but it's true. Nobody is left out by chance, just as nobody enters without having demonstrated, first and foremost, behavioral maturity. And when you begin to understand this, you realize that each choice is a signal sent to a place you might not even have imagined you were looking. Comment below. That makes sense to me. And it's curious how this process begins in an almost imperceptible way, as if something inside you silently reorganizes itself. Suddenly, choices that previously seemed obvious cease to make sense, while opportunities that were always there, but that you simply didn't see, begin to emerge with a different clarity. It's as if the financial landscape, previously hazy and full of distractions, undergoes a discrete transformation, revealing paths that only appear when your mindset truly changes. It's not magic, it's not coincidence. It's the natural consequence of someone who has begun to act as if they are already prepared for the next level. At this point, you realize that your journey is taking a different direction, because decisions that were previously made impulsively are now filtered through clarity. And then something even more interesting happens. Invitations you've never received before start arriving. They aren't necessarily formal invitations, but signals. A conversation that changes tone, someone who introduces you to an opportunity outside the usual circuit. People who previously spoke to you in a generic way now begin to share behind-the-scenes insights, perceptions, and revelations that aren't offered to just anyone. This happens because your way of deciding, acting, and positioning yourself has begun to communicate something new. The market, which was silently observing you, finally recognizes you as someone who isn't just experimenting, but building. And that changes everything. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because this turning point doesn't wait for the day your account hits $250K to happen. It arrives much sooner, much sooner. It happens when you stop operating in worried beginner mode and start acting like someone who understands the impact of each choice. It happens when your actions speak louder than your intentions. When you demonstrate consistency, maturity, emotional discipline, and a vision that goes beyond the short term, you begin to emit signals that the market understands instantly. It's as if you're finally using the language that this other level recognizes, a language made of behavior, not numbers. And this internal shift triggers something powerful. Conversations change level. People who previously offered superficial opinions begin to bring deeper perspectives. Groups that once seemed distant start to see you as someone who belongs. Situations that once made you insecure now become fields where you walk with confidence. It's a point where you clearly realize that you're no longer trying to appear prepared. You truly are. And when this authenticity manifests, the market responds. It opens doors that would never open for someone who still oscillates between impulses and doubts. The hidden truth is that access has always been less about having money and more about demonstrating that you know what to do with it. And it is in this moment of awareness that the question arises that changes everything, the one that separates those who are ready from those who still need to adjust their course. Are you already sending signals that the market understands? Write it in the comments. I'm sending the signals. And when you understand that the market is already watching you long before the numbers change, it becomes clear that crossing the shark door doesn't depend on a sudden financial leap, but on a silent transformation that begins within you. From this point, the journey ceases to be about how to make more money and becomes about how to become someone the market itself recognizes as ready. And this has much less to do with techniques and much more to do with mindset, emotions, and decisions made away from the spotlight. Gradually, you realize that there is a pattern among those who truly advance. These people think in terms of decades while the rest despair over the next month. They live below their means, even when they could splurge. They ignore social pressure disguised as opinion. And above all, they operate in consistency mode, that state in which progress speaks louder than anxiety. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because it is precisely in these small habits that the market finds evidence that you are ready to handle bigger opportunities. When you invest predictably, without drama, without turning every fluctuation into panic or exaggerated celebration, you send a powerful signal. You are not a hostage to the short term. And this, for those at the top, carries enormous weight. It's as if you were saying, without even opening your mouth, that you understand the impact of time, that you know how to respect cycles, that you understand that true wealth is not born from haste, but from consistency. These habits create a kind of behavioral aura, a financial identity that forms before you even realize it. The way you stop comparing yourself to the progress of others, the way you silence external expectations, how you avoid falling into emotional traps, all of this shows that you are not building wealth just to have more, but to be more. And this change is so profound that it begins to affect all your actions. You start rejecting shortcuts, refusing miraculous promises, choosing difficult paths with the serenity of someone who knows that the return is inevitable for those who persevere. And when this new way of existing begins to solidify, something powerful happens. You become able to enter environments where most will never set foot, not because you've memorized strategies, but because your behavior reveals maturity. Your posture conveys confidence. Your relationship with money ceases to be emotional and becomes strategic. The hidden truth is that this filter identifies not only those who have resources, but those who know how to manage them. It recognizes those who are prepared to deal with responsibility, vision, and long-term decisions. Ultimately, crossing the shark gate means proving, day after day, that you are not shaped by impulse, but by intention. And when that revelation finally clicks, you understand that the first test was never about money. It was, and always will be, about who you are becoming. Comment below. That makes sense to me. And if you've stayed with me this far, it's because this topic truly resonates with something that's already awakening within you. So let me ask you something very simply. If this content helped you see your journey more clearly, if it made sense at any point, if it brought any revelation about your own financial behavior, consider subscribing to the channel. Here we continue exploring these invisible layers of the market, these behind-the-scenes aspects that nobody talks about, but that completely change the way you grow and position yourself. And so I know you made it to the end, and that this conversation truly affected you. Leave this phrase in the comments. I'm with you until the end. It's a subtle way for me to recognize who is truly committed to this transformation. If you'd like to leave a like, it really helps keep this space alive and allows more people to find this type of content, which ultimately speaks much more about mindset than about numbers. And since you've made it this far, there's a video over here that perfectly complements everything we've discussed. Click and continue watching it.